Welcome back to the Ethan Clerc Podcast Show. We have a great episode for you today for episode 101, don't we, Colin?
Oh, it's a great way to start off the hundreds here. Guy that we've been watching for a long time, and
Yep.
can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Oh, yeah, we've looked up to this guy for a long time. His name is Robb. He's from the Urbex channel, RNK All Day. They have almost 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's a husband and wife team. And I don't want to waste too much time here, but we do have some new merchandise on Facebook for the show. And so check that out. Also, subscribe, like, review, leave us a review. We'd like to hear any future guests you guys would love to have us have on. Without further ado, let's talk to Robb from RNK All Day. So we are here today with RNK. Robb from RNK All Day YouTube channel has 148,000 subscribers. He's been doing exploring for, I looked in your oldest video was from 4 years ago. Is that about when you started, Robb?
It was we probably started publishing videos 2016. It was probably May, June 2016.
Wow.
So yeah, we've been at it for about 5 years now. And, the channel's been up since 2015. And we were slowly kind of practicing doing things before we really published a lot of the videos and content that we had on there. And then pretty much about May, June 2016 is when we started taking the whole recording and Instagram, YouTube thing seriously. So yeah.
Yeah, we've been big fans.
2015.
We've been big fans, like I told you before. We've been watching for a long time. So it's awesome to have you here tonight. And I really want to get into some of the stories and the things that make you want to get out and explore these places and, put yourself in jeopardy of the law or even danger situation. So can you kind of talk a little bit about how you got into exploring? What led you to go out and check these crazy places out?
I mean, I've pretty much always been into abandoned buildings and stuff like that. I grew up a skateboarder and just a degenerate and general, you know what I mean? So like, you'd always kind of find yourself, in places where other people couldn't mess with you or anything like that. They weren't going to bust up your good time trying to skateboard or play tag or do whatever you were doing with your friends and stuff. So we kind of had a lot of abandonment around the town that I grew up in. We'd flood out every 3 years because of a hurricane and stuff like that up there in Long Island. So you get a restaurant or something like that you can play around in for a little while before they reclaim it or, eventually knock it down or something like that. So growing up as a kid, I was always involved in, hanging out and stuff like that. And then it just kind of progressed with the internet and stuff like that and finding out more places like this were available, historic places, houses, all kinds of really cool stuff was out there. And I always liked traveling around and stuff like that. And we'd always kind of find it, even without the internet and stuff, me and my wife, Christy, and I would be on vacation or something like that and kind of be driving around the local areas and stuff like that and kind of run into something. And we were always interested in going inside that and seeing what was up with that more than even, some of the touristy stuff that we would get into, so that's kind of what led us to doing it more on YouTube. And that was really what we watched on YouTube. That was really why we started making videos for YouTube, because it was really about abandoned videos and Disney videos. That's really what we were into on YouTube. So it was one of the two. And then we started really doing both at a certain point once we got kind of good enough to want to be out in public. That was another thing that started off was I wanted to always make movies and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about computers or cameras or anything like that. And I didn't want to be like the douchebag that was running around the middle of the street with, no followers, talking to somebody, with a camera in front of their face and stuff like that. So I kind of went and hid out inside of abandoned buildings, learned how to use my camera, do different tricks and stuff like that. And I think I'm all right at it. Other people tell me I'm better than I think at it. So it's all been good. So that's cool.
That's
It's
awesome.
cool watching like your original videos and then let them like till now, the editing, transformation and all that. It's pretty dope.
Like I said, I learned here. So when you guys say I started back and you see my original videos back then in 2016, that's literally some of the first recording I ever did. So I had no, I had no way, I didn't know what I was doing. I just figured I get stuff down on film. I put some music to it or something like that. And then obviously after watching other people and seeing different tricks and editing and getting to know the softwares and things like that, because I built houses for a living before I got on YouTube. So I didn't need to use a computer or anything like that, So I never knew about any of that stuff, especially Final Cut and, Adobe and stuff like that. I never knew anything like that. So picking up a camera and a computer was completely out of my world, like out of this universe. I mean, I never thought I'd ever have to do it. So,
Wow.
That was how, that basically the last 4 or 5 years on YouTube has been my college, so to speak. You know what I mean? So that's been the cool thing about it. I've been learning the whole way through and just coming up with different cool things to do.
Yeah.
I love your editing technique and how you put your videos together. It's really cool, and it's been cool to watch throughout all the explores.
Rob, when did you see that the channel went from like you're on YouTube, you're exploring? When did you see that blow up? Because I mean, now you're at almost 150K. When did you see that transition from a regular channel to this is going somewhere?
I mean, really, I'm kind of humble in a way. I'm kind of still waiting for it to blow up. It hasn't blown up. Obviously, if you've watched me, you've seen me with other people who have way blown up channels,
exploring
and
with Josh,
and yeah, exactly. So, I would hope that my videos got recognition like that one day. That's blow up to me. In terms of when things started to really gain traction and move along, that was pretty much about a year into the game, and it was like right on time too, because like we really just we kind of jumped all into it full on and grabbed an RV and kind of hit the country and just kind of did all these spots we had pins of and really hit it. And that's kind of like, we put out a video. It was like a mansion there was a pink bed inside of it, a big old Victorian mansion that we did about 5 years ago at this point. And it just the night that we were going on the road, we were just getting little views here and there and stuff like that. But the night that we were going out on the road, about 2 hours before we jumped in the RV, I published that video. And by the time we got into the RV, it had like 10,000 views on it. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. Usually I only got about 1,000 by now and stuff like that. And the view count started going up and the subscriber count was going up along with it. And I was like, all right, cool. So something's starting to happen here. So we just started putting out more at that point and, doubling down and really getting involved with it even more. And then that's kind of when it took off. I mean, we started meeting a lot of people after that, started going to a lot of cool places, doing a lot of cool things. And that's really when it took off about 4 years ago off of that video right there. That was pretty crazy.
Wow. Did you quit your job after that, after like the YouTube channel started working out?
I've never really quit my job. I had my own construction company and stuff, so I can kind of bounce back and forth between that, although that's really on like a long-term hiatus because Christy and I also, we do real estate stuff. We buy and flip properties, rent them out and stuff like that. So that's another thing that we have going on. Christy's also, she's got a really good job up in New York where she is right now. So it's kind of been all over the place. I never really quit my job. I just kind of put things here, did this, even like right now, I've kind of been on hiatus for the past 4 or 5 months from YouTube stuff just to really take care of these sort of things right now. And then come spring, we're really just jump right back into the whole mix all over again. I'm going to put down another 5 years probably before we have to start, really reorganizing our properties and doing different things that we had to do this year, which was fine because we had the time to do it because of the whole pandemic and stuff like that. Traveling was kind of hard and things like that. So we might as well just take care of it right now.
Yeah.
And then get back at it when everybody's up and running and stuff. So, yeah.
Wow. It's crazy to see how far Urbex has came, especially on YouTube in the past 5 years, because right now you're seeing an unbelievable amount of Urbex channels. And I'm sure when you started back in 2016, it was kind of newer to YouTube. Like it wasn't that big of a thing.
It was still a big thing. You were getting a lot of videos, but there weren't there definitely wasn't as many. There was an explosion of people that were able to acquire the equipment, knew what they were doing in terms of being able to edit it and publish it and put it on YouTube like that. You know, when I first started, we mentioned Josh before. I mean, I didn't know about Josh. I knew about a local guy down here in Florida where I am right now. He was Flurbex, and he was even on a smaller scale. I think he's got about 4,000, maybe 5,000 subscribers at this point. He's been on it longer than anybody else, even out in the woo, if you know him, because that's really how I even saw people on YouTube doing it. I didn't know about anybody else really that was doing it other than those two channels. And then as I got into it, obviously I got introduced to more. It was recommended to me more on my channels, so I started seeing that there were a lot of other channels. But yeah, over the past 3 years, there's been an explosion. It's just become more accessible. It's easy views and things like that. If you get a good mansion video that can get 1 million views, that means you're talking 5,000 easy subscribers. So if you're into it, like I say, I mean, why not do it if you're into it and you're going to do it the right way or whatever. But I mean, there's plenty of people out there that aren't necessarily doing it the right way and kind of making things really hot and getting a lot of people in trouble for doing things like that. So,
yeah, that was my next question was, do you think the explosion of Urbex videos has made it more challenging for you and everyone else who's going out doing these, more professional style videos? You think it's making it harder for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of times you get a lot of people that don't know what they're doing, or even maybe people that just don't even have the best intentions that are following people up. So if these people are giving away locations and things like that, other people are going there, causing damage, causing trouble, getting the cops, the owners, whoever involved and all that kind of stuff. And then, they got a paper trail or a video trail, back to everybody else. And if they want to do stuff like that, they can, and they have actually done it. So, it does cause trouble when people that are inexperienced are doing it. But I mean, everybody's inexperienced at a certain point, you know what I mean? You just kind of have to go into it knowing, this is your thing. If you get caught, this is all you. And you got to do the right things in that case. You got to know that, what we're doing in a lot of cases is legal,
Yeah.
So that's really the whole thing. A lot of people kind of don't understand that it is illegal. You know what I mean? I mean, it's only a trespassing ticket, or, I mean, for me, it's gotten worse in some cases and things like that. So, but in a lot of cases, it is just a trespassing ticket, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still something that's going to go on your record and all that stuff. So you definitely want to consider that before you go get into it, and then get anybody else involved in it, that may or may not, want to get into that, or might even want to damage something and get you in trouble later on down the line. So
yeah,
the hobby's become so popular on Instagram and like TikTok recently that it's became so much easier for everybody to find the spots that people are hitting or have been hitting for so many years.
Well, unfortunately, once it becomes an Instagram photo spot, it becomes way blown up, way more accessible to people. And in a lot of cases, you're not going to have the right people. I would probably say there's about 5% of people that are on Instagram that actually, keep good secrets and know who to mess with in that case. You know what I mean? So at that point, the other people they're just there for the shot, the likes, and then it doesn't matter where it is, them, or what it is for that matter.
Ethan and I have been exploring for 5-6 years now,
something like that,
around then, and we've met up with a lot of people via YouTube or Instagram, just messaging them, and you meet some pretty interesting people that you're like, oh yeah, they only care about Instagram photos or stuff like that. It's kind of sucks, but then we've met a lot of really cool people that are down to earth about the whole hobby and just want to have fun and check out extreme places.
Yeah, I meet a lot of people through Instagram that are really good photographers, and that's how they get their stuff out there. And then you get, some Instagram models, they're seeing something that they can get some cheap likes on or something like that. And those are the people that I'm not really into. I've never really been into that. Even with the YouTubers that, they're just looking for, cheap views. They use the place as ghost videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That all exposes stuff because they're not really, when they're looking into their videos or they're editing their videos, they're not editing them and taking out an address, taking out a piece of mail, something like that it would expose the place. So more often than not, if you get those guys inside of there, that's where everybody else is able to access that information very easily. So
there's an opinion. We're from Minnesota, and there's an urbex community here that is very critical of each other. And there's an opinion out there that videos and photos ruin the whole hobby, and especially they blame people like Proper People and Josh for ruining a lot of high quality locations. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, I can't argue with them. You know what I mean? I can't. I mean, it is what it is. I try as best as I possibly can. I would like to think, and I've been told that I'm known, for kind of not doing that or kind of trying, to not do that. I don't really trade information. I don't really keep information a lot of times just so I could say I don't even know. You know what I mean? So, a lot of times my friends will take me there. A lot of times I'll meet new people, and that's how I become friends with people, because they're telling me about places. I don't really want any information on it. When I go there, I'm not like, what's the history of this place? A lot of people call me stupid, or say that I should do some research before I put up a video or something like that. But I like to be the traditional urbexer in the sense that I'm not giving away the information. I don't want anything to slip. And really, in a lot of cases, I don't really care about the place. I don't care what the history is behind the place. I'm more there for the architecture and the site, and try to piece together kind of my understanding of what had gone on there and all that kind of stuff, and in that case, I'm safe a lot of the time because I'm not giving the whole history of the place. Now, in a case with Josh or, the Proper People or anybody else, I don't watch a lot of their videos, so I really don't know exactly what it is that they do in their videos that would expose that. But if they are giving away information, if they're doing a detailed video, that can definitely, they're not doing it like I am. They want to be smarter than I am in a lot of cases. I don't need to be smart. I just need to go there and film a cool movie that, people like the architecture, and that's really why I'm there.
Yeah.
If I could show off the history or do some news articles or something like that, I'll do a documentary piece like that. You know what I mean? But if it's become presented to me as some sort of a secret or something that I could definitely be in trouble for if it gets exposed, then I try to keep it on the hush hush, but as far as them, I don't know. I know a lot of people have other problems with them, for their notoriety. And I'm sure if I was, as notable as some of those people, a lot more people that like me probably wouldn't like me as well. So
that's the tough part, is walking the line with this hobby between giving away too much and showing too much, because you want to show the coolest stuff, but sometimes when you show the coolest stuff, it can ruin it for other people. But at the same time, people are going to find it either way, is kind of my argument. If they look hard enough, they'll find it.
I mean, you'd be surprised how easy it is to find some of the hardest spots that people say out there, are to find. I mean, I found places that people regarded as some of the hardest places to find within a half an hour than telling me I'd never find it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's real. If you do your due diligence, you're going to get into a place, you know what I mean? It just takes a matter of time, you know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that I never saw those two guys that you mentioned, two channels that you mentioned, as doing anything wrong, which is why, I've hung out with Josh, you know what I mean? I never thought that he did anything wrong. There were certain things that, like anybody else, people have had to tell me, oh, maybe don't do this, or maybe don't do that, and they're just watching my back because maybe I just have, my focus on something else, you know what I mean? And they're catching something that maybe, I wasn't looking at, you know what I mean? So there's always those times where maybe your focus might be somewhere else, and you might have your head up your ass for a second, So, as far as those, like I said, as far as those two channels, I think they do it, in the most legit way you possibly probably could, what I mean? I wouldn't have any problem with them. I'd have probably a problem with about 100 other channels before I ever even brought them into the conversation.
Yeah.
When I feel that people mention those two channels specifically, I think there's a lot of hate behind it. I think there's a lot of notoriety, like I said, that people would like to have. So
yeah. Yeah, we just see that a lot in Minnesota with people getting mad about stuff, and it's people that you wouldn't expect really, that don't, that have ill intentions kind of when they're going into it. It's like, this is my spot and I don't want anyone else to go to it. And
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things.
Well, you kind of do see that all across the board. I mean, that's anywhere that you go, really. I mean, anywhere that I've ever been, people have their little secrets. They have their place that nobody's really gone to. They can pick up a couple of quick picks and nobody knows about or anything like that. And in that sense, yeah, I mean, you discovered it. You don't want anybody to know about it. That's your little secret. You want to, you want to bleed it for all it's worth. That's cool. You know what I mean? If you want to trade something with me for it, you know what I mean? Or if I came around to you, I was like, hey, that place looks pretty dope. You want to take me there? And you're like, nah, I'm really keeping on the low. I could respect that. But, at that point, you kind of canceled yourself out to me. And I got a lot more to offer than a lot of other people out there. You know what I mean? So, there's a lot of people that just throw me information just, on my Instagram that I haven't even checked messages on. You know what I mean? So. And in that case, if you help me out, I would help you out. Some people are dicks about it. Some people are just, like I said, they're just trying to conserve their little spot. Maybe they didn't get to explore the whole thing. And, maybe they ran in real quick, got 3 pictures, and they don't want it blown up like that. They don't want to go back there in another month when they get a free day off and the place is spray painted because they told 5 people that traded a bunch of spots for it or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. You got to kind of look out for yourself in that sense too. So you could be a dick, or you could just be a guy that's just trying to get, your, all of your spot. You know what I mean? And I respect people like that. So
there's so much more to the hobby than people know, like trading spots, and everybody knows these spots, or that's like
a
hot spot or hot spot, or I don't know. A lot of people don't know how much is behind the hobby.
There are a couple of people, that I've ran into that, have just been hard asses about certain things. We've been rolling around or whatnot. And, we're just looking for a place, or we're getting rejected, and they got something that's about, 5 minutes out of the way, and they just don't want to, deal with it. They just don't want to bring anybody there. Or if there's a specific person that's in the crowd that, if they get that pin, they're going to go, and that's another thing too. You sometimes you roll in groups of people that you kind of can't trust every individual that's sitting inside of there, because everybody has a phone, everybody has their Google Maps. You can just pin that. Once they did that location, they're on their way. If they see something that somebody has and they're like, hey, can I get that spot? And somebody's like, well, you're at that mall, and this person just brought you over to that mall, and it's like, hey, keep that on the low. What kind of loyalty do you have to this person?
Right.
So there's a lot of sketchiness that goes on there too. So I definitely get it. You know what I mean? I definitely get it. It's a game, you know what I mean? And it's a trust factor too between people, you know what I mean? Because, people are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, you know what I mean?
Yep. In the end of the day,
if you're not trying to blow up spots, then you're trying to be kind of secretive. And if you're trying to follow the rules of the game, then you're not trying to blow up spots, you know what I mean? So ultimately you're going to come off like a dick to somebody somewhere down the line if you do it for long enough. You know?
At the end of the day, we're all breaking the law. So, I mean, it's like, we're going into illegal spots for trespassing, so no one owns the spots,
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, if you send the wrong person there, they could do the wrong thing, and nobody knows what anybody's intentions are ultimately, or nobody knows what somebody is capable of. They can get hurt there, something can happen. And then, like I said, there's a video trail or a picture trail or whatever that may go back to you, and you don't want to deal with that. If you got away scot-free, why would you send somebody else that you don't trust to go there?
I want to switch into something different here. If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to, but it's something that I know you've been involved with, and it is about the submarine. And I've been curious about some details about that and the whole thing. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
You could ask, and I'll answer as much as I possibly can.
Because are you still in legal stuff with that?
Yeah.
So
because of COVID, everything's going really, really slow. As a matter of fact, on Friday, I have another Zoom court meeting, just another delay in the bullshit, that kind of thing.
So from what I got out of it is you got blamed for sinking was it a World War II submarine?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
And how could that be? How could someone piece together that was you that did that?
I mean, there really was no piecing together. It was just they kind of got something and they said that was what the conclusion of it was. In terms of what's going on with it and how they got things and things like that, it's kind of sensitive material, you know what I mean? My lawyer kind of told me don't really discuss it with anybody. There's actually another thing that's going on is in terms of the documentation of all this stuff, because I was very due diligent on getting all that stuff, you know, together while this whole process has been going on and stuff like that. So I'm working on, you know, a movie for that whole thing to go on. So that's going to be really cool.
Wow.
So in terms of that going on and just the whole court case in general, there's really not much that I could say. Like, but all I could say is that they kind of just pieced a couple things together and kind of blamed, you know, a group of 5 people, you know, for doing something that was already done. And really, if your fans want to go out and check out the USS Ling Facebook page, they can kind of go through the history of it. It's already been debunked, if you want to say.
Yep.
That you know, anything human wise was the cause of you know, the damage to that submarine. So,
and you have all that on your channel, right? You have videos where you explain. I've seen some of them where you kind of go over it.
There are actually a couple of videos on the channel that'll explain it even more in depth for anybody that doesn't want to go read through. I mean, it goes back for at least 2.5 years at this point, that Facebook group where they documented they've been doing cleanups and things like that. But for all the information that I'm actually able to give legally at this point right now, you can go back in my channel. There's a couple of USS Ling videos. There's a video where I turned myself into the jail and did all that stuff. So if you guys are into that stuff, you can go ahead and see that as well. So
Rob, how long were you in for? Because I remember you were in for a while, but I don't remember exactly how long it was.
What happened was I was down here in Palm Bay back in May, and we were exploring down there, and the cops rolled up on us there, asked us for ID, and I had a warrant out for my arrest. They took me into Palm Bay County Jail for 4 days. They released me, and 3 days later, I drove back up to New York, where the next day I turned myself into Bergen County Jail. I was in Bergen County Jail for about 7 hours. They released me, and then I started doing Zoom court meetings and stuff like that. So it's been like 3 or 4 Zoom court meetings for like an hour a piece so far, and it's just all been just delays and stuff like that to this point. So
wow,
there's really nothing going on.
I mean, for anybody, this is the first time we've ever met you, but from watching your channel, it's very clear that you would never disrespect property. So we obviously, and I hope that all your fans know too, that you would never do anything like that. And it's just ridiculous.
I appreciate that. I mean, and a lot of the fans have definitely, you know, they've reached out, they've contributed to my lawyer fees and things like that. They've been on, you know, the Patreon and the PayPal and all that stuff, and really showed their support. Everybody's been really supportive. And like you said, everybody does know that I don't have any ill intentions towards that. Outside of the fact that, you know, I'm going somewhere where I'm probably not supposed to be. I am trespassing, like I totally admit to in every single case. I do $1,000 fine every time I go record a video. You know, to me, that's the price of making the video. Outside of that, I'm not a vandal. If anything, I reprimand vandals in my videos more often than not. I don't like seeing any of that stuff. I do, at the end of the day, know that it's somebody's property, whether or not it's abandoned or not. I don't know what happened to these people. I don't know when or if they're able to come back. So I wouldn't want to do anything like that I wouldn't want done to my stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know what the situation is there. Ultimately, is what it is. I know a lot of people that steal from places like this, and it's never happened under my watch. I've never let anybody walk out of the front door, out of a window, or anything like that with anything from a home that we've ever been inside of. I've never witnessed anybody steal or vandalize while we were, you know, in a site filming. We're there to do 2 things: film, take pictures, and 3 things if you want to say have a good time, because you know that's really all we're there for. And breaking shit and just fucking shit up is just, it's not a good time for us. You know what I mean? That's what makes it a bad time, when I walk into a place that looks like that. You know, that's like that's when I start to get down on people that you know, I'm into tagging and stuff like that. You know, don't get me wrong, it's an art form and stuff like that, but I like it where people can see it. You know what I mean? I respect the guy that gets on top of a bridge and does
Mm-hmm.
his great piece, and rather than inside somebody's, possibly somebody's already, owned abandoned property, you know what I mean, that they're
Yep.
gonna come back into and see this guy's name on the fucking wall, and it's like, like that, it's not cool to me, so it's not something that I would do. And like you said, it's not something that I've ever shown the character in my videos. It's not a character, it's the way I genuinely am. In my life, I build houses, I fix things for a living.
Yep.
So,
yep. Does it change your perspective on exploring now that this has all happened? Are you more hesitant to do it, or are you fine?
Definitely. I mean, listen, there's over 300 videos on that channel right there, where there's more than enough content that I've been out doing it for a long time, that I can be more selective in terms of where I want to go or what I want to see. And it's just not about getting the views, and it never has been about getting the views. It was just at a certain point, you're kind of in the groove, you're on the road, you're kind of just doing what you're doing. And at a certain point, you kind of get tunnel vision, and you're not even realizing that you're actually even going into a place that you shouldn't probably be going into at that point. You know what I mean? It's just about, like, I just want to see this. I saw a picture. I got to see that room inside of there. I got to check this out. And it's just, you're running on tunnel vision. And when you're on the road like that, you're just hitting different spot after different spot, your adrenaline's going and shit. And then you kind of get caught up in it. 300 videos later, you kind of stop, and it's like, all right, I'm kind of doing the same thing over and over again. It's kind of becoming the same thing. And even before I had gotten in trouble, it was kind of becoming repetitive. It was kind of becoming the same thing. And I was kind of just running around the country just to gather up the same kind of content and stuff like that, and really, since I did get in trouble, I've been trying to just do it on a bigger scale, where there's not as many videos out there that everybody can put up and stuff like that. Like I said, these 4 or 5 years on YouTube have kind of been my college, so I kind of want to put those skills and everything that I've kind of learned over the couple of years into something bigger and better, and kind of get more people that I've even met along the way involved, because, a lot of people that are on Instagram and stuff like that, they're not getting these opportunities and stuff like that to get exposed, and to be able to work with some friends and stuff like that, and just some cool people in general that I met along the way would be awesome. And just to do it legally and get some money behind a couple of nice projects and stuff like that. And that's really the way I'd, ultimately like to do it. When I got into it, that was really the goal, was to kind of acquire, a bunch of different friends that are able to do this stuff, and then, acquire, the knowledge of how to get it out there, and knowing the people that can get it out there for me. So at this point, I've learned a lot, met a lot of people in the industry, so I can, kind of have those opportunities to be able to do something a little bit bigger than just a 30-minute YouTube video, maybe something a little more, maybe a little more in depth, really, so I can show the history. So it's just not like one of these, places that, I kind of got to be a dummy inside of, and there's more of a story, and I can put that to it without having to worry about exposing myself and then getting an email or a phone call 3 months down the line from a detective or something like that.
How many times has that happened, that you've gotten an email or a phone call from a police department or a detective
about your videos?
Yeah.
More than 5, probably.
Really?
As far as the email thing, it's been probably more than 5. Phone calls, probably about the same.
Do they
Letters.
make you take it down, or what?
No, I've never been forced to take down a video or anything like that. They just kind of want me to call them up and talk to them or whatever, In most cases, it's just been like, just kind of leave it alone for a minute, and ultimately just kind of see what happens. In other cases, they're mailing letters to your house and stuff like that. So they know where you live at that point. So you kind of got to go with the flow and go up to the, police department to call them up, get in touch with a lawyer, tell them to squash it out for you. $1,000 later, you got yourself a video. Like
Wow.
I said, it's just, it's the cost of doing business sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a video can make me, maybe $3,000 over its lifetime, you know what I mean? Then the $1,000 hit, I guess, is not that bad, in and of itself, And if something like this happens, where the situation that I'm in right now with the submarine, if everybody wants to bail me out and contribute to my Patreon and pay for my lawyer, then, like I said, it's not really that bad in the end. It really didn't hit me in the pocket, and it's just pain in the ass. But right now is the best time to deal with it because I don't have to go to court. You know what I mean? So I kind of have to sit in my living room on a Zoom call for in front of a judge and tell him, hey, I'm still alive, and I'll see you in court whenever we can go back to this thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, and the crazy part about this is a lot of the younger people, like kids that are getting into it now, don't realize how much trouble you can get in for going into certain abandoned buildings. Like some of them, they're just no big deal, but others you're looking at felony level trespassing.
Yeah, which was the problem with a couple of them that we went into, where we were kind of surprised in the aftermath because 3, 4, 5 months, even a year later, in one case, we were surprised that anybody even owned it or you had watched the video, and it turns out in the one that happened about a year later, where it was a house that we got a call from a detective, and we had to go up there and just pay a couple of fines. I think it equated to like $400 or something like that. But we had to pay a few fines, and the way it was described to us by this detective was that some other explorers were there and ended up showing them our channel and our video on it. Kind of saying, well, we thought it was all right to go to this place because they have this video saying that it's abandoned and this and that and the other thing. So that's kind of the other thing in terms of the wrong people getting involved in this kind of stuff and doing the wrong thing to you later on down the line, so.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you could get blamed for something you didn't get caught doing, but you can get blamed after the fact is, I think, ridiculous.
Well, they caught me doing it technically. They had me there on video, and there's a statute of limitations, unfortunately. So they had me within that 3-year confine.
I think Minnesota's 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think it's the same thing here in Florida. It's either 4 or 7 here in Florida, but I mean, it's different all over. And once you hit the road, you'll start to see that it really racks up at that point, and you've really done a lot of damage.
Yeah. We've talked about the negatives or whatever of all the people doing it. What about you've got to believe the security community knows about urbex now, and they're going to start doing things that we're not used to seeing. They're going to start doing crazy security measures to keep people out of abandoned buildings.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of the things that, like we said, are really abandoned, then they're really abandoned. They're really not cared for. Where in that case, they're probably just going to have their caretaker as usual or something like that. But urbex has kind of stepped up to a point, and I found myself involved in it, where you're kind of not going into places that are abandoned at a certain point. You know what I mean? And just because, like I said, somebody from Instagram got a picture and all this stuff, you get a pin. And, it's been explained to you as abandoned, but you kind of get inside the middle of this, perfect mansion. And you're like, I don't really think, it could quite possibly be on the real estate market at this point right now. I don't, and then you find out
it actually
5 hours after you leave the place that, it was exactly what you thought. So, at that point where a lot of people are doing this stuff and then stepping up security especially for, rooftops and things like that, that's become a huge thing, you know what I mean? And nowadays with people posting those kinds of videos, I mean, almost every time I see somebody post a video or a picture on that stuff, they're going down for it, you know what I mean? They're immediately caught. They find out who they are. They don't want people out there doing that kind of stuff. And what they're doing, hanging off the sides of roofs and stuff like that, they're definitely not going to want people out there doing that stuff. So yeah, I could see security in those areas being way stepped up. In terms of, in the real estate market or something like that, I mean, if people want to protect their mansions, houses, office buildings with, security cameras and all kinds of different stuff nowadays, I don't think they're going to step that kind of thing up. But, it's something that I wouldn't really worry about because I only really try to go to abandoned places. I like seeing things all messed up. I like seeing things all run down. I like seeing growth.
Yeah.
I don't really like being,
decay.
I can go to a perfect place anytime, and that was another thing that I had gotten into is like, it's kind of untouched, which is really cool. It's, things are growing into it, and then untouched became completely clean. The Roomba just went off and just
power's
the
still
whole
on.
place. I just came in and filmed that real quick and got out of there and said it was an abandoned place, and in that case, that kind of happened a couple of times. You know what I mean? So,
have you been to Chicago to explore at all?
I'm in Chicago at least 2 times a year.
Okay, so have you seen the dog doors?
Twice. What's that?
Have you seen the dog doors that they're using in Chicago for like abandoned schools?
Oh yeah.
So like
Yeah,
that
they're
kind of
pretty
stuff,
crazy.
like
There's one answer to those: max power.
Yeah. Oh, forget about it. Max is the best.
He
He's my
is.
pit bull.
yeah,
Whenever we need something done that's tough, he's my pit bull. He just goes. He'll climb a roof. He'll do whatever. He'll go down a chimney. He'll do whatever.
He'll go through the
found that
vents,
guy in
dig a
so many different
tunnel,
places.
break through a
Yeah,
wall.
I found him in so many random places. He's the best.
yeah.
He's him and Jose are the two reasons why I go out to Chicago all the time. Jose's my man,
Yep.
and Max is my boy. That's my guys.
Dude, they're crazy, and we've seen Max do some unbelievable stuff. We've been on a couple of road trips with him, and if he can't get in, he's gonna find a way in. Like Max will find a way in.
I like I said, if there's something that I don't want to climb or do something like that, and it's a one-man show, so to speak, I just send Max for it. He gives it the gusto, and I know if he can't get in, we're just gonna move on to the next spot because he's the guy that gives everything. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, he's great.
I've never seen him fail either. So I defended him in that case also. People have told me, oh, you know, he's an amateur, he's a this, he's a that. I said I've seen him do way more than a lot of people that I've ever seen. So
Yep.
I don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's a good guy and he's fun to hang out with. He's fun to explore with.
Yeah,
like
a lot of people give him a hard time, but he's a great guy, great
yeah.
friend, and he does more than anybody I've ever met to get into places.
Yeah, he stuck up for me big time while I was stuck in that jail. He was shouting me out a lot and stuff. He did a lot, you know. Good guy. Every time in Chicago, he's always with me the whole time, driving me around, doing cool stuff, showing me cool stuff, you know, and just hanging out in general. When I go out, I like people that I want to hang out with because most of the time, you know, you're either in a car or you're sitting there eating lunch or doing whatever you're doing in a hotel room with somebody. You know, you got to like them on that level. It just can't be about the 3, 4, 5, 6 hours you might get a day, you know, exploring. You kind of got to spend the rest of the 24 hanging out and having something to bullshit about. And you know, anybody that you kind of see in the videos or really anybody out in Chicago has been really cool to me. I like everybody out there.
Yeah, that whole Chicago crew is dope.
Yeah,
they're a good time.
I got another question for you, and this might be another one I don't know if you want to talk about, but I heard the story from Matt Sanswa, and it's about you guys going into an abandoned mansion. And
yeah, well, we didn't go into an abandoned mansion.
Or
we went onto the driveway of an abandoned mansion, and then I kind of decided to take off from the security. And then shortly after that, I don't know. Well, what happened was I kind of had my hiding spot, and then Matt I don't know whether or not they were chasing him or they kind of just found us together, but he kind of jumped into the bush where I was, and then that made me have to leave my good little hiding spot and try to jump over a fence with a 35-pound camera bag on my back, which really wasn't working. He got over, I got nabbed as I was getting over the gate, and you know, got to meet up with a cool sergeant at that point, which was another, you know, $500 day right there. So I didn't even get a video out of it.
I know. I saw his video from that, and it is the story he tells or whatever is just one of the craziest urbex stories I think I've ever heard. And he's got such a good way of telling stories.
Was it a? It was a video on his channel. It wasn't like of the Explorer, right? It was just him storytelling.
He did have video from the inside.
He was doing like a story time thing.
It was a story time, but in that story time, he was showing video that he had got, and I think it was before you had got there, and he had got actually, and maybe it was the day before.
They were there the day before that, and then they flashed me some pictures, and I was about an hour and a half away from where they were at that point in time.
Yep.
So I went up and met them. And then the day went to shit. Yeah, so,
he's kind of a funny guy.
I think I heard about his storytelling. I think there were gunshots involved in that story and all kinds of stuff. I don't think gunshots went up. I don't think that was that crazy or anything like that. But yeah, I mean there were about 3 cops and a security guard there that didn't really like us being on the Rockefeller estate that's up there in upstate New York. So yeah,
that's crazy. I had to ask about that because it was one of my favorite stories. I didn't know how much of it was true or how much of it was a little, exaggerated storytelling.
The fact that they brought me to some place that was clearly not abandoned. That pretty much as soon as I stepped into the driveway, I turned around and told them this place isn't abandoned, and they swore up and down that it was abandoned. And then all the way up until I saw a caretaker pass us by, and then I said, "Do you still think it's abandoned?" And they said, "Well, we don't really know." And then once the security guard approached us and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "It's definitely not abandoned." And they said, "You're probably right." And I said, "Well, forget about it. I'm taking off, and I'll see you guys later." And yeah, then you know, it was only a 3-hour. I didn't even go to a cell that time. I was just locked up to a desk for like 3 hours. So
Really?
Damn.
it was all right.
What's your favorite spot, Rob, that you've ever hit out of all the spots you've gone? And maybe you can't even mention where it is, but what was it? Like a water park or a museum or a mall?
I mean, probably Six Flags, only because it was like one of the first really big ones on my list. You know, and it was a whole cool day. Me, my wife, and my cousin got to chill out over there, and you know, really take it in for about 5-6 hours. Louisiana is one of my favorite places in the world, so that might have had a little bit to do with it, you know. So there was a little bit of Bourbon Street involved with exploring, and
Oh, yeah.
and some stuff like that. So that was a good time. It was on the list. I went there back in 2012, and I wasn't able to get in because they were filming either Jurassic Park or Jurassic World there, or Percy Harvin, I think it was. I think the
Really?
movie's called. Yeah, it was like some other like movie based on a video game.
They've filmed a lot. They've filmed so many there.
I know they've used it a lot, but that in this specific period of time, there were like 3 or 4 movies. I know that it might have been Jurassic World because there was a shit ton of just movie carts. Crash service was out there. There were security guards out in the front of both entrances. So I'm thinking it had a pretty big deal going on with it. It might have been Jurassic Park. So yeah, so we went back there. We finally got back there in 2017 after we got, you know, we never made it back down to Louisiana after that. Finally made it back down there. So it was a pretty good 4.5-year wait between us, you know, actually seeing it in person and then being able to get inside of it actually. So.
I remember in your guys' video, the security drives right past you and you're just standing there like looking at them like, holy shit, they didn't see us.
Like legit, like we had just taken a break for the at the Ferris wheel there, and we were taking some water, and my cousin, he's getting ready to climb up to the middle of the Ferris wheel. And he goes down inside of the pit there, and I'm kind of just leaning on the rail, and I'm just looking. I'm hearing cracking, like pebbles just cracking, you know, the sound of asphalt as rubber's rolling over. And I just freeze, and just, you know, this lady just kind of cruises right by, and she was just straight-headed, like her neck was broken, and she couldn't turn it at all.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy shit to see, guys.
And she went right by us. It was pretty crazy. It was really cool because we were only halfway through, and we didn't get to see any of the bigger roller coasters. So it was really cool that she did miss us there, because we would have only gotten about half that park and none of the stuff we really even came for at that point. So yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, we've been there twice, and both times have been amazing. I think the one time we went for sunrise, or got there like right for sunrise, and then the second time we went at like 8 a.m, and have both times been there for a few hours. Just an incredible place.
No security issues though.
Yeah, no security problems at all. Just at the front gate.
I heard at certain points in time it's like lax, and then like they step it back up. They get a couple of complaints, and then, you know, they go back and forth with it, whether or not they really care about it, or whether or not they have. It's not really a big issue to them. They kind of know that nothing is going to go on there. They're not going to let them build anything over there. They're not really going to let, you know, in terms of what I've heard over the last 8-9 years, they're not really going to let them do anything. All the proposals have been shot down. So, you know, I mean, it's just been a waste, you know what I mean? So like I said, at certain points, security's down. At certain points, they get complaints from the neighborhood or something like that. Security goes back up for a little while, show a little bit of a presence, and then they go back away, you know? So it just depends really, I guess, when you hit it. When we went, they were lax. I flew a drone right up next to the security car and saw the guy sleeping in the car, and that's how we knew it was safe to go in. So about 2 hours later, that person obviously woke up, started driving around the Six Flags, and was so tired still that they didn't even notice us standing 5 feet away from him.
So crazy.
Good day for us.
I've had a few friends go within the last few months, and they've been saying stuff about security drones flying around
Really?
over them, tracking them down, and then the cops
Really?
showing up. So I don't really know
I
the
wouldn't be
truth to
surprised.
that, but we're hoping to go back next month because we're going down there for Mardi Gras.
Yeah, cool. You have a good time at Mardi Gras. We were down there last year for Mardi Gras.
Really?
Max was down. Yeah, Max was down there.
Oh
with us.
yeah,
That was
I
the last
remember that.
Yeah, that was the last big trip that we took. We were there like 3 days before Mardi Gras started. Yeah, it was a
Wow.
good trip. We did a lot of good stuff down there.
Yeah, we're excited for that. Another video thing that happened that I wanted to ask you about, Rob, was in one of your videos, you're at an abandoned resort and there's a guy with a gun and you're talking to him and you kind of cut into the video after you guys have started the conversation. Did he pull the gun out on you or how did that happen?
He walked out with the gun. He got out of his car. I guess he was kind of waiting for us because our car was parked behind a recreational building that they have on the property. And I guess he was waiting for us because we were there for a pretty long time. We were there for a good 4 hours. So he must have seen us, in the car at least a good 2 hours into it. So he was probably sitting there waiting for us to appear. And the gun was just really for show because really it's a common thing that everybody gets to show from Leo with his big gun and all that stuff. So I've heard at least more than 20 times
Really?
that people have encountered Leo exactly like that. He brings out his gun, tells people to stay out the property, and then talks to him for about 5 minutes about all the crazy stuff that's happened on the property, and then that's everywhere. Nothing really. I was back there another time after that and didn't encounter him.
Really?
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
That's crazy. Was that the only time that you've ever had to deal with somebody with a gun or cops with guns pointed at you or anything like that?
In Urbex, cops with guns, yeah, I've never had cops point the guns at me during Urbex. During other things, yes.
Probably don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
As far as somebody else pointing a gun at me during Urbex, I've never had another person have a gun around me or pointed at me outside of a police officer. But
homeless people, dangerous situations with sketchy people.
I mean, I'm really not afraid of a lot of people. I'm really kind of cool with people. I don't think anybody else has pulled any weapons out on us or anything like that. I think it's just been Leo, and that was kind of, like I said, that's his gimmick, so to speak. I mean, that's a show that he puts on forever.
Yeah,
goes there. In terms of being afraid of anybody or having any weapons pulled on us or having anybody even be hostile towards us, I've never really had it. There was another guy at a mansion in Tennessee. I think it got knocked down. We had our RV up there, and this old man decided to come up there, and he had a gun, but he only had that on his hip. He came up there with his gun and stuff. But that's Tennessee and stuff. They always have guns and things like that. So once you leave like New York or Democratic areas and things like that, you start to see a lot more people with guns on their person. It's not very common to me because I'm from New York, and I just transplanted down to Florida basically, so it's becoming more of a common thing to see somebody with a gun on them. So yeah, that was the only other time I saw a gun during an urban exploration.
Wow. What is the future for RNK All Day? Because you're talking about going to some different kind of content. Where do you see it going? To some more like professional documentary long form, or do you see sticking with kind of the same direction you've been going?
No, I mean, I would in terms of staying on YouTube, I would like it to be more of a thing between me and Christy, kind of whatever we do, whether or not it be something that has to do with abandon, something that has to do with travel related vlogs, family type stuff. Because, obviously over the past years, we've gained people that are personally, involved with us and like the things that we have to offer in our personal lives outside of Urbex and stuff like that. So that's been a thing that we've been getting a lot more requests of and stuff like that, but ultimately, I mean, why I started doing this was so I can do more long form. I wanted to be a documentary guy, you know what I mean? That's really what I wanted to get into. That was, I would love to do like a full length feature film or something like that. But, I never thought of myself as like a big, huge Quentin Tarantino type guy and in the industry or anything like that. I just always figured that I want to do a movie. I want to do something cool, and documentaries are easy, and I'm into a lot of cool shit, and just to track people down is more along my lines of like, wanting to explore and wanting to travel, go see things, go meet new people, and kind of put together a story that I can really explain, and I don't have to be afraid of being arrested or having anything wrong done to me, in that capacity, what I mean? So, I would love it to be, an hour and a half documentary on a place, on a person, on anything like that, you know what I mean? And that's really kind of what I've been gearing up towards, the whole time that I've been filming and doing stuff on YouTube, editing, and trying to figure out how to do more of those things. I put together a documentary, so to speak, on Skid Row, like 3 years ago almost. And, that was just something that I wanted to do. I was exploring around LA, and I just figured that was really good content to really kind of go interview some people and kind of get my feet wet. And that that was the first time I ever did, a documentary kind of deal like that, for an hour and a half, a 90-minute piece, kind of explaining stuff. It was just, 8 hours down in Skid Row. So it wasn't like, I had a whole scripted thing going on, or, even a crazy direction to get inside of, or even the time just to hang out down there and figure it out, So I thought it was pretty good for what, like I said, just getting my feet wet and getting stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like I said, full-length feature film would be that would be the dream right there, getting paid to do something really cool, like a horror flick or something like that. Would be great, but I mean, it's all, YouTube's the first step, maybe documentaries are the second step, maybe that's, maybe the third or fourth step at that point, you know what I mean? But, I have a good time doing what I'm doing regardless, it's all good stuff.
We're looking forward to see what you do, because I know that from the experience you've gathered over these years is invaluable. It's more valuable than going to college, because you've learned it by doing it, which is the most important thing, is learning it. And sometimes when you go to college, you're just looking at stuff on a board. You're not actually doing it, but you've been doing it. So I'm excited to see where you go, and you should keep us updated, because I think it'd be awesome to see where the channel goes.
I definitely will, just keep on the channel and stuff like that. I'll always have and like I said, there will always be some sort of urbex, when I'm doing stuff like that. If I get to do things like that, like a big documentary or something like that, and it does involve urbex, or it does involve somebody that I'm working with on Instagram, like I will feature them on the channel. If you guys have watched the channel before, you've probably seen that I feature, Max, and we did an airplane video together, and Max knows all about that stuff. I like to feature people and show my audience other people as well, get them involved, because if I'm on hiatus for 6 months, I want them to be able to watch some cool stuff, and I want to also be able to turn my friends on. So at that point, I got to film somebody doing something, they gave me some content, I gave them some viewers, and I gave my viewers somebody else to watch at that point, what I mean? So it's something that I like to do. I like to be behind the camera. That's really why I came into it. I started off behind the camera, and then I slowly was told that you kind of have to be in front of the camera to make kind of things happen, and kind of show people who we are and what we're doing, and kind of gain an audience and stuff like that. And that's really the only reason why I stepped in front of the camera, was kind of control what was going on there, and kind of give, a face to the madness that was really going on there. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, like I said, keep us updated. One of the things we ask everybody on the podcast is if you could go back and tell your younger self, usually 21, if you could tell your 21-year-old self something, what would it be? What would that thing be?
I don't. Shoot, just keep doing what you're doing, because when you get into your 30s, you're gonna live like you're an 18-year-old. I really wouldn't want to go back and tell my 21-year-old self anything, because I might mess some stuff up, and everything, I've had some, bad things and some really, really great things happen in my life, and I wouldn't take away any of the bad things, because all the great things really outweigh it, you know what I mean? So like,
no regrets.
If I could just tell myself anything, it's just whatever you're gonna go do, just go do it, and don't even remember that I was here. I wasn't even here. So,
I like that.
Screw it up. The whole space-time continuum thing. I don't want to get involved with my earlier self. That was a pretty messed up kid, you know.
You don't want to Back to the Future yourself. You don't want to ruin
Exactly.
anything.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, RNK, this has been awesome. Robb, I got to thank you so much. We've learned a lot here, and I'm excited to see where your channel goes because I think you've got some big stuff coming up. And let's hope the whole thing with court, that bullshit can be done with so you can keep on going with the channel and
I appreciate it, man.
keep uploading what you love doing because, it's kind of, like I said, it's bullshit what's going on, but I think you're going to get through it. And I think it's going to hopefully work out in your favor in the end and, it won't affect you long term.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. We got to get on the road or something like that.
We should. We should.
Get Max, Jose, and then boys together, do a little road trip through the Midwest or something like that, bro.
Yep, awesome. All right, well, that was an awesome conversation with Robb. It was great to hear his stories and to hear his perspective on exploring because we all do it, but everyone's got a different reason for doing it. What do you think about that conversation, Colin?
Yeah, it was great to hear from him and actually meet him, not in person, but over the camera.
Yeah.
It was just a great conversation, and it's funny to kind of hear us talk about like the same things we think about and spots we've both hit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And for people that don't know too much about urbex, you could kind of tell we've never met Robb before, but we've looked up to him with his channel, and you can already tell, like Colin said, like the similarities and the things we're talking about. We find these connections. For people that aren't into it, it might seem kind of weird, but there is a very solid urbex community, and people know a lot of the same locations and a lot of the same spots and a lot of the same terminology and all that. So maybe we are talking a little too insider knowledge, but I'm hoping it was a good conversation because we had a great time talking to him. And I'm hoping we can meet up with them and do some other content other than a podcast with them and actually explore.
For sure.
So
it was a great way to start off the hundreds.
It is, yeah. Next week we have a great guest coming on. We have one of the top 20 TikTokers of 2020, Cam Casey, will be coming on. He's made millions of dollars off of Snapchat over the past couple weeks. He's been on Ryan Seacrest. He's been on David Dobrik's show. And now he's coming on the Ethan Clerc Show. And this will be not one of those little 5-minute little whatever interviews like they do. We're going to do a full-on podcast with him. We're going to get into the details. We're going to figure out how you make money on TikTok and Snapchat and how he's became a millionaire from using these platforms. People are going to want to hear about that. So we're going to have a good time talking to Cam.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. We'll be back next week. This is the Ethan Clerc Podcast Show.